Welcome to this explainer where we are going to dive into a pretty wild idea, a fascinating thesis about how two of the most powerful technologies on the planet might just be on a collision course to completely reshape our economic future.
So, how are we going to break this down? First, we'll look at what happens when AI meets scarce money. Then, we'll get into this big idea called the Great Deflation. After that, we'll explore what this all means for a new economic order, how it could affect global power, and finally, we'll ask the big question, is this really a path to abundance?
All right, let's kick things off with the two main characters in this whole story. Two monumental forces that, on the surface, seem to be pulling in completely opposite directions.
So in one corner, you've got artificial intelligence. This is a technology that's all about creating abundance, right? It's automating everything and pushing the cost of making things down and down and down, theoretically, towards zero. And in the other corner, you have Bitcoin. It's the first time we've ever had true, absolute digital scarcity. There will only ever be 21 million, full stop. So that's the big question, isn't it? What on earth happens when these two collide? And this isn't just some thought experiment for economists. The answer could totally change the value of the money you save and what it even means to plan for the future.
So you've got this unstoppable force of infinite production crashing into the immovable object of finite money. What happens next? Well, the central argument is something called technological deflation. Now, I know what you're thinking. Deflation, isn't that bad? And usually, yeah, it is. The kind we read about in history books is tied to economic collapse. But this is a totally different animal. This is deflation being driven by something incredibly positive. Technology just getting better, faster, and cheaper. And you can literally see the dominoes fall here. AI and robotics take over, production costs just crater, which means companies can charge less for, well, everything. And the end result for you and me? Every single dollar we have suddenly buys more stuff. Our money's purchasing power actually goes up. And this isn't some far-off dream, you know? We're talking about trillions of dollars that generative AI is expected to pump into the global economy, mainly by making everything more efficient. That huge wave of new value has to go somewhere, and a big chunk of it is likely going to show up as lower prices for all of us. Okay, so if prices are naturally falling because technology is just making everything awesome and cheap, what does that do to our current financial system, which is literally designed to fight falling prices at all costs? This is where things get really tricky for the status quo. For decades, the standard playbook for central banks has been, prices are falling, print more money. But what happens when prices are falling for a good reason? That old playbook might not just be useless, it could actually make things worse.
And this slide just lays out the fundamental conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got our current currencies, which are designed to be elastic. A central group can decide to create more whenever they want. Then you've got Bitcoin, a totally different beast. Its supply is locked in, predictable, and run by math, not by a committee meeting. So here's the key takeaway from this whole section. If goods, services, and information become incredibly abundant, almost free, what's the one thing that becomes incredibly valuable? The thesis is that it's the very thing you can't make more of, a trustworthy, scarce, and predictable way to store your economic energy over time.
But this isn't just about your wallet or the economy. The ripple effects of this convergence could fundamentally change geopolitics and what it even means to talk about national security.
I mean, let's be real. The more our lives move online, the bigger the target on our backs becomes. We're talking about a world with hyper-intelligent AI, which means the threat of AI-driven cyber attacks becomes a massive problem for literally everyone, from you and me to entire countries.
So how do you defend against that? Well, this is where Bitcoin's core engine, this thing called proof of work, offers a completely new kind of shield. The best way to think about it is like a digital fortress that's powered by real-world energy. To make any change, you have to pay a real physical cost.
What this does is pretty brilliant, actually. It anchors the security of the digital world to the unbreakable laws of physics. An attacker can't just hack it with a clever piece of code. They have to acquire and burn an insane amount of real-world energy, which makes attacking the system prohibitively expensive. It's like projecting physical force into cyberspace.
All right, let's zoom out. Let's put all these pieces together and look at the big picture this thesis is painting. What could this future actually look like if all this comes to pass?
The vision here is a kind of positive feedback loop for humanity. You've got AI driving this incredible wave of productivity, making goods and services accessible to everyone. Bitcoin acts as this stable monetary foundation, which encourages people to save and invest for the long term.
That, in turn, funnels capital to real, high-impact innovations, not just speculation. It's a system where growth is tied to creating real value.
And that leaves us right here with the big, provocative question. It's a beautiful vision for sure, but is a future of AI-driven abundance anchored by sound money something we can actually achieve? Or is it just a utopian fantasy with way too many hurdles to overcome? Honestly, the jury's still out.
Hey, if this explainer helped you connect some dots between AI and Bitcoin, do us a favor and hit that like button. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. We'd love to hear them. And of course, subscribe for more deep dives into the tech that's shaping our world. It really helps us out.
And just a quick but important reminder, this explainer is purely for educational purposes. It is not financial advice. Please always do your own research and talk to a professional before making any investment decisions. Thanks for watching.